Sir, we need you to gather your belongings and come with us. Two security officers stood over Malik Johnson in seat 3A, their presence silencing the first-class cabin. Malik kept his voice level, aware of the phones now recording him. I'd like to know why I'm being removed. I have an important business meeting. The presentation on his laptop was worth millions to his company. The officers, following orders from their security chief, saw only a black man to be removed without explanation. They had no idea the security issue was Malik himself. His groundbreaking algorithm, designed to detect patterns of corporate discrimination, was so effective that their airline had orchestrated this public humiliation to stop him from presenting it. They thought they were containing a threat to their bias system. In reality, by targeting the one man who could mathematically prove their bigotry, they had just triggered the very scandal that would ground their entire global fleet, erase billions in value, and expose a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of the industry. Before we dive into this incredible story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want more stories about people standing up against injustice. The way this ordinary man brought a massive airline to its knees will absolutely shock you. Malik Johnson adjusted his navy blue tie as he settled into seat 3A, a spacious first-class accommodation on Horizon Airlines Flight 21H7. As a 38-year-old software engineer for Jefferson Tech, he paid full price for this ticket. No upgrades or standby status. The morning sunlight streamed through the small oval window as other passengers filed past. In 6 hours, he would be presenting his groundbreaking algorithm at the San Francisco Tech Summit, potentially securing a multi-million-dollar contract for his company. Excuse me, sir. A flight attendant with a tight blonde ponytail and a name tag reading Amber appeared beside him. May I see your boarding pass again? Malik reached for his phone, pulling up the digital boarding pass he'd already shown during initial boarding. Sure, here you go. Amber scrutinized the boarding pass with unusual intensity, her eyes darting between the screen and Malik's face. Thank you, she said finally before moving on. Malik returned to reviewing presentation notes on his tablet. 10 minutes later, as he was deep in concentration, Amber appeared again. I'm sorry, sir. Could I verify your boarding pass one more time? Malik looked up, noticing that the white businessman across the aisle hadn't been asked for his boarding pass even once. Neither had the elderly white couple in 2A and 2B. Something felt off. Is there a problem? Malik asked, showing his boarding pass for the third time. Just routine checks, Amber replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Thank you for your cooperation. The cabin door closed and the safety demonstration began. Malik tried to refocus on his presentation, but a crawling sensation of unease had settled in his stomach. The plane pushed back from the gate, taxiing toward the runway. Suddenly, the aircraft jerked to a stop. The intercom crackled to life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your Captain Garrett Wilson. We apologize for the delay, but we have a minor security issue to address before takeoff. We should be on our way shortly. Thank you for your patience. Passengers exchanged confused glances. Malik continued working, assuming the delay had nothing to do with him. That assumption evaporated when two uniformed security officers marched down the aisle directly toward his seat. Sir, we need you to gather your belongings and come with us, said the taller officer, his badge identifying him as Wesley Thompson. Excuse me? Malik asked, genuinely confused. Is there a problem? Please just come with us, sir, the second officer, Brad Miller, insisted. His hand rested meaningfully on his belt. I'd like to know why I'm being removed from this flight, Malik said firmly, aware that passengers around him had fallen silent, many now, recording with their phones. We can discuss that in the terminal, Wesley replied. Now please gather your things and come with us. I paid for this seat. I have an important business meeting. I've done nothing wrong, Malik stated, keeping his voice level despite rising frustration. At least tell me why I'm being asked to leave. Sir, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, Brad warned, his tone hardening. Malik looked around at the watching passengers, calculating his options. Making a scene would only reinforce stereotypes about angry black men, but complying without explanation felt like surrendering his dignity. I'll come with you, he said finally. But I want it on record that I've been given no reason for this removal. As he stood to retrieve his carry-on from the overhead bin, Wesley grabbed his arm roughly. We'll get that for you later. My laptop has my presentation files, Malik began. Later, Brad cut him off, gripping Malik's other arm. The two security officers escorted him through the cabin, past rows of staring passengers. The humiliation burned through him as whispers followed in his wake. Some passengers looked uncomfortable. Others seemed to assume he must have done something wrong. In the terminal, Malik demanded answers from airline representatives. The customer service manager, a woman named Tiffany, with a practiced smile, offered only vague statements about security protocols and captain's discretion. "I need my belongings," Malik insisted. "My presentation materials are on that plane." "Your items will be sent to baggage claim at your original destination," Tiffany informed him. "You can arrange to have someone collect them. And when can I rebook my flight? I have a critical presentation this afternoon." Tiffany's smile faltered slightly. "I'm afraid you won't be able to rebook on Horizon Airlines at this time." "What, you're banning me?" "For what reason?" Malik demanded, struggling to maintain his composure. "The decision comes from higher up." "Sir, I don't have any additional information." She slid a card across the counter. "This is the number for our customer relations department. They can assist you further." Malik stood in stunned silence as the reality of his situation sank in. Not only had he been publicly humiliated and removed without explanation, but now he was banned from the airline altogether. His crucial presentation, possibly the most important of his career, was hours away in San Francisco, and his materials were flying there without him. As Tiffany walked away, Malik pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called the one person he knew could help. His college friend Jasmine Taylor, now one of the most respected civil rights attorneys in the state. They did what Jasmine Taylor's voice crackled through Malik's phone as he paced near the airport's food court. Her outrage was palpable even through the spotty connection. "Pulled me off the plane. No explanation. Now I'm banned from rebooking," Malik summarized, watching travelers flow past him. Each glance in his direction felt loaded with judgment. "Send me the videos." People were recording, right? "Yeah, plenty of phones out," Malik confirmed. He hadn't checked social media yet, but when he did, his stomach dropped. The Horizon Airlines racism was already trending. Videos showed him being escorted off the plane, his face clearly visible. The clips had hundreds of thousands of views and counting. Horizon Airlines had issued a statement while he was still trying to figure out his next move. Horizon Airlines takes security concerns seriously. "We cannot comment on specific security protocols, but all actions are taken with passenger safety as our primary concern." The generic corporate response only fueled public speculation. Jasmine texted that she was already receiving media inquiries about representing him. His phone buzzed constantly with notifications, calls, and texts. Meanwhile, his presentation, the culmination of 2 years' work, developing an algorithm that could detect patterns of discrimination in large data sets, was sitting in his laptop, currently somewhere over the Midwest. "Malik, listen to me." Jasmine's voice pulled him back to their call. "This isn't just about missing your presentation. What happened to you follows a pattern. I've handled 3 cases against Horizon in the past year alone, all involving Black passengers removed from flights without proper justification. 3 cases." Malik stopped pacing. All settled quietly with NDAs. But this time, they picked on someone with the skills and resources to fight back. There was a steely determination in her voice. "I'm sending you names of these previous cases. We need to connect the dots." While booking a flight on a competing airline at the original fare, Malik received a text from his boss, Philip. "Just saw the videos. Company stands with you 100%. Take whatever time you need. I've notified the client about the circumstances." That small show of support meant more than Philip could know. Not every Black professional could count on their employer to back them in the situations like this. By the time Malik finally boarded his new flight, after additional random security screening, his inbox contained an introduction from Jasmine to investigative journalist Taryn Washington, who had been tracking discrimination cases in the airline industry for years. Terrence didn't waste time. Before Malik's replacement flight even landed in San Francisco, the journalist had sent a detailed email outlining Horizon's troubling history. Horizon has settled 24 discrimination cases in the past 5 years, triple the industry average. Their head of security, Raymond Morris, previously worked for an airline that faced a class action lawsuit for racial profiling. Internal company culture has been described as toxic by former employees. The message included screenshots from an employee forum where Horizon staff made casually racist comments about passengers. One particularly disturbing thread discussed profile flags in the booking system that seemed targeted at passengers with certain ethnic-sounding names or traveling from specific countries. As his new flight began its descent into San Francisco, Malik received another email, this one from an anonymous Horizon employee using a secure messaging service. What happened to you wasn't random. Check who's speaking at your tech conference and which airlines they contract with. You were targeted. Be careful who you trust. More of us want to come forward. Malik's presentation, delivered using hastily reconstructed slides on a borrowed laptop, went well despite the circumstances. But the potential client seemed hesitant about the partnership. Now the company representative, a woman named Deborah, pulled him aside afterward. Your work is brilliant, Malik, but we're concerned about the attention surrounding you right now. Our board is risk-averse. Translation: his public status as a discrimination victim made him a liability. Meanwhile, Horizon Airlines CEO Howard Bennett appeared on several business news programs defending the company while revealing nothing. We cannot discuss security matters publicly. Our protocols exist to protect all passengers. Back at his hotel, Malik connected via video call with Jasmine and Terrence to strategize. Jasmine's paralegal had already compiled a dossier on Horizon's legal history, while Terrence had been contacted by a whistleblower, an HR employee named Kayla Wilson, who had documentation of racial bias complaints being systematically buried by management. They offer settlements with aggressive NDAs before cases can become public. Jasmine explained, shuffling through papers off camera. The pattern is clear, but each case in isolation doesn't make headlines. What about the flight attendant, Amber? Malik asked. She seemed to be acting on specific instructions. Working on it, Terrence replied. My sources say there's significant pressure within the company right now. Your case has gained more attention than previous incidents. As if to confirm this, Malik's phone lit up with a call from an unlisted number. It was Alvin Davis, a member of Horizon's board of directors. Mr. Johnson, this conversation isn't happening, Alvin began cautiously. But I want you to know that some of us on the board have been concerned about certain practices for some time. We've been overruled repeatedly. Your case might finally force the changes we've been pushing for internally. Why are you telling me this? Malik asked. Because tomorrow Horizon is going to offer you a settlement. It will be substantial. It will also include an NDA so restrictive you won't be able to acknowledge the incident ever happened. There was a pause. I'm telling you this because I believe you'll do the right thing. The call ended abruptly, leaving Malik staring at his phone. Within minutes, an email arrived from Horizon's legal department requesting a meeting. Jasmine's advice was unequivocal. They're running scared. Don't take the first offer or any offer that silences you. That night, as promised, the airline offered Malik $750 to make the problem go away. In exchange, he would sign an NDA preventing him from discussing the incident publicly or acknowledging any settlement. Malik declined without hesitation. The next morning, videos emerged of other passengers describing what they'd witnessed. A businessman named Troy from seat 4C stated clearly, "The man did absolutely nothing wrong. He was polite, compliant, and still treated like a criminal." Horizon stock dropped 7% by market close. Sunrise painted San Francisco's skyline gold as Malik Johnson sat in his hotel room, watching Horizon Airlines CEO Howard Bennett address the nation on morning television. The CEO's silver hair and tailored suit projected authority as he leaned forward with practiced sincerity. At Horizon Airlines, safety is our paramount concern. Howard stated, "While we regret any inconvenience to Mr. Johnson, our flight crews are trained to act on potential security concerns. We stand by our employees who make difficult decisions daily to keep our skies safe." Malik's phone rang. It was Jasmine. "He's lying through his teeth," she said without preamble. "My contact at the TSA confirms you weren't on any watch list." There was no security concern, so why was I removed? That's what we need to find out. In the meantime, Horizon's PR team is working overtime. Indeed, Stephanie Morris, Horizon's head of public relations, had issued a statement suggesting Malik had been uncooperative with standard security procedures, a blatant falsehood contradicted by passenger videos. When reporters pressed for specifics, Stephanie deflected. "We cannot comment on individual security assessments. Our protocols are confidential to maintain their effectiveness." By noon, Horizon's legal team had reached out again, increasing their settlement offer to $1.2 million. The new offer came with the same strict NDA requirements. They're getting desperate, Jasmine noted when Malik forwarded the email. And they should be. 3 more people have contacted my office with similar experiences on Horizon flights. Malik's decision remained firm. I don't want their money, I want accountability. That afternoon, flight attendant Amber Taylor gave an exclusive interview to a sympathetic news outlet. Her carefully rehearsed statement painted a different picture of events. The passenger was exhibiting concerning behaviors that for security reasons I cannot detail, she claimed, despite video evidence showing Malik quietly working on his tablet before being approached. As flight attendants were trained to notice things passengers might miss, the interview backfired spectacularly. Social media users immediately highlighted the contradictions between Amber's claims and the documented reality. The hashtag flying while black exploded with thousands sharing their own experiences of discrimination while traveling. Malik was preparing for a video interview with a national news program when Taryn called with alarming news. My source just forwarded me an internal memo. They're planning to smear you, the journalist warned. They've hired a firm to dig into your past looking for anything they can use to discredit you. They won't find anything, Malik said confidently. That's not how smear campaigns work. They don't need facts, just enough innuendo to create doubt. Sure enough, by evening, anonymous concerns about Malik's background were being seeded in comment sections and on certain forums. The coordinated nature of the attacks was obvious to anyone paying attention. As public outrage intensified, the financial consequences for Horizon mounted. Several corporations announced they were reconsidering their business travel contracts with the airline. A social media boycott gained traction with people posting screenshots of canceled Horizon bookings. The company's stock fell another 11%, triggering concerns among major investors. The board scheduled an emergency meeting for the following morning. That night, Malik received another unexpected call, this time from Alvin Davis, the board member who had reached out previously. Things are worse than I thought inside the company. Alvin confided, his voice hushed, as if worried about being overheard. Howard is doubling down, but several board members are breaking ranks. We've seen the complete security footage, and there was absolutely no justification for removing you. Then why was I targeted? Malik demanded. I don't know yet, Alvin admitted. But whatever the reason, it goes beyond normal corporate stupidity. Something about this feels deliberate. After the call, Malik discovered his Jefferson Tech client had officially pulled out of their potential contract, citing current controversies in a tour. The financial impact on his company and potentially his career was becoming substantial. Jasmine officially filed a discrimination lawsuit the next morning, ensuring the case couldn't be quietly buried. The legal action triggered formal investigations from both the FAA and the Department of Transportation into Horizon's practices. They're in full panic mode now, Jasmine reported after filing. Their legal team requested an emergency closed-door meeting with the judge. Request denied. Meanwhile, Malik's missing laptop and presentation materials remained unaccounted for. Despite multiple inquiries, Horizon claimed they couldn't locate his carry-on bag that had been removed from the aircraft. That doesn't make sense, Malik told Terrence. Every bag has a tag. Every item is tracked. Unless someone wanted your bag to disappear, the journalist replied thoughtfully. What exactly was on your laptop? My presentation on algorithmic bias detection. It's a system that can identify patterns of discrimination in large data sets that might otherwise go unnoticed. As Malik spoke, a troubling possibility began to dawn on him. Wait, you don't think that you were targeted because of your work? Terrence finished the thought. At this point, I'm not ruling anything out. That evening, the FAA announced a preliminary investigation into Horizon's passenger removal policies. Agency spokesperson Carl Mitchell stated, "We take allegations of discriminatory practices by airlines very seriously. Our investigation will determine if federal aviation regulations or civil rights laws were violated." Howard Bennett appeared on television again, his previous confidence notably diminished. Dark circles under his eyes betrayed the pressure he was under. Horizon Airlines has proudly served diverse communities for over 30 years, he insisted, voice slightly strained. We categorically deny any pattern of discrimination and look forward to being vindicated by a full investigation. Behind the scenes, however, Horizon was in chaos. Leaked emails showed executives scrambling to contain the crisis. One message from Howard to the board read, "We need to end this now, whatever it costs." Another from the company's chief legal officer warned, if the DOT audits all our passenger removals by demographic, we have a serious problem. As day turned to night, Malik sat alone in his hotel room, watching his personal ordeal transform into a national conversation about race, corporate accountability, and justice. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. They're afraid of your algorithm. That's why they targeted you. Watch your back. The morning fog hung heavy over San Francisco Bay as Malik paced his hotel room. The mysterious text message still displayed on his phone. They're afraid of your algorithm. That's why they targeted you. Watch your back. Who would know about his algorithm and its capabilities, and more importantly, who would fear it enough to orchestrate his removal from a flight? His phone rang. Terrence calling with new information. I found something, the journalist said, excitement evident in his voice. You weren't randomly selected for removal. You were specifically targeted. By whom? Horizon's head of security, Raymond Morris. I have a source who saw an internal security flag placed on your reservation 3 days before your flight. The flag came directly from Raymond's office. Malik sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. That doesn't make sense. I've never had any interaction with Horizon's security team. It's not about who you are, Terrence explained. It's about what you are going to present at the tech summit. The pieces suddenly connected in Malik's mind. His presentation wasn't just another tech talk. It was a demonstration of an algorithm designed to detect patterns of discrimination in large datasets. The same algorithm could easily identify racial bias in airline security practices if applied to their passenger data. Innovate Tech, Malik whispered. What's that? Terrence asked. The company I was presenting to. They're developing passenger management systems for airlines. Horizon is one of their clients. Bingo, Terrence confirmed. And guess who sits on the investment board that's heavily backed Innovate Tech? Raymond Morris himself. If your algorithm became part of their system, it would expose any discriminatory patterns in their security protocols. Malik finished. As they spoke, Terrence received an encrypted file from his source inside Horizon. Security camera footage from the airport showing Raymond Morris speaking with Wesley Thompson, the security officer, who had removed Malik hours before the flight. This is bigger than one incident. Terrence said this is about preventing technology that could force accountability across the entire industry. Jasmine conferenced and on the call was momentarily speechless. This changes everything. We're not just looking at discrimination, we're looking at conspiracy and corporate sabotage. Later that day, Malik received another anonymous message, this time with attached internal communications showing a premeditated plan to prevent him from reaching the conference. One email from Raymond to Amber instructed her to find any reason to question Malik's presence on the flight. The conspiracy had multiple layers. Raymond had orchestrated Malik's removal to prevent the presentation, but Howard and other executives had approved the operation, revealing deep-rooted corruption within Horizon's leadership. As Malik forwarded these revelations to Jasmine, Terrence FBI agent Curtis Fletcher contacted him directly. Mr. Johnson, we've been monitoring the situation with Horizon Airlines, the agent explained. What began as a civil rights concern has evolved into potential corporate conspiracy, which falls under federal jurisdiction. Would you be willing to meet? The stakes were escalating rapidly. That evening, Malik received a warning call from a Horizon employee named Nathan Cooper. They're panicking about what you might have discovered. Nathan whispered, be careful. Some of these people have connections beyond the airline. As if to validate this warning, Malik returned to his hotel room that night to find the door slightly ajar. Inside the room had been methodically searched. His backup hard drive containing copies of his presentation was missing. Hotel security cameras revealed two professional-look individuals entering his room using a key card. This was no random burglary. It was a targeted operation to contain the damage. Are you still with me? This story's getting intense. Comment number 1 if you think Malik should take the FBI's help, or number 2 if you think he should keep this in the civil courts with Jasmine. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear how this shocking situation unfolds. What would you do if powerful corporations were targeting you because they feared what you might expose? The truth is about to come out in ways nobody expected. The studio lights felt hot on Malik's face as he sat across from television host Diana Freeman on her primetime news program. Camera operators moved silently around the perimeter while millions of viewers across America tuned in. Mr. Johnson, in your own words, can you tell us what happened on Horizon Airlines Flight 2187? Diana asked, her expression professionally concerned. Malik recounted the events calmly and methodically, from the repeated boarding pass checks to his forcible removal and the subsequent discovery of the conspiracy against him. His composed demeanor contrasted sharply with the outrageous treatment he described. What made you decide to speak publicly rather than accept the settlement offers? Diana asked. This was never about money, Malik replied, looking directly into the camera. This is about a systemic problem that affects countless travelers who don't have the resources or platform to fight back. I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I can refuse to be silenced. The interview aired unedited in its full 20-minute glory. By morning, it had been viewed 17 million times online. Flying while black became the top trending hashtag worldwide, with thousands sharing their own experiences of discrimination while traveling. Celebrities and influencers amplified Malik's story. Basketball superstar Damon Willis posted, "Been removed from flights twice without explanation. Thought it was just me. It's the system." Shani, flying while black. Award-winning actress Kesha Martinez canceled her Horizon Airlines partnership. I cannot in good conscience represent a company that profiles passengers based on race, standing with Malik Johnson and all victims of discrimination. Boycott Horizon. The public pressure forced other corporations to respond. Global Tech, a major Horizon corporate client, announced it was reviewing its travel provider relationships. 3 other Fortune 500 companies suspended their contracts with the airline, pending the outcome of investigations. Horizon Airlines was facing its greatest crisis in its 30-year history. Their stock had plummeted 45% in a week. Ticket sales dropped by over 60% as travelers booked with competitors. The first major partner, Airline International Airways, suspended its codeshare agreement with Horizon, meaning passengers could no longer book connecting flights between the two carriers. CEO Laura Chin issued a statement. While we await the results of ongoing investigations, we have paused our partnership with Horizon Airlines effective immediately. As Malik's story spread, more victims came forward. A retired teacher named Jamal Thomas described being removed from a Horizon flight 2 years earlier without explanation. A medical student named Zoe Washington shared security footage of being subjected to additional screening while white passengers walked past unimpeded. The pattern was becoming undeniable even to those who had initially given the airline the benefit of the doubt. The airport authority at 5 major hubs announced they were reviewing Horizon's gate operations. A congressional committee scheduled hearings on discriminatory practices in commercial aviation. Howard Bennett called an emergency board meeting as the company's stock continued its freefall. Desperate to salvage the situation, he personally reached out to Malik with a dramatically increased offer, $5 million with a strict confidentiality clause. You realize this offer proves everything I've been saying? Malik told Jasmine after forwarding her the proposal. They're terrified of what will come out during discovery. Absolutely, she agreed, and they should be. We've already lined up 26 plaintiffs for a class action. Your case broke the dam. Despite the financial pressure, Jefferson Tech was struggling without the contract Malik had been poised to secure. He stood firm in his refusal to be silenced. The settlement offer was declined within the hour. That decision came with consequences. That evening, Malik received his first direct threat, a voice-altered phone call, warning him to back off or face consequences. His rental car's tires were slashed in the hotel parking lot with a note on the windshield. Next time, it won't be the tires. Jefferson Tech immediately hired private security for Malik. His family, initially supportive, but concerned, now feared for his safety. His mother, Lillian, called daily with growing worry in her voice. I'm proud of you standing up for what's right, she told him during one call. But these powerful people play by different rules. Promise me you're being careful. I am, Mom, Malik assured her. Though the escalating stakes kept him awake at night, the threats only strengthened his resolve. In a follow-up interview, he addressed them directly. These intimidation tactics prove we're exposing something they desperately want to keep hidden. I won't be silenced by threats. Too many people have endured this treatment in silence already. Public support continued to grow. A crowdfunding campaign to support Malik's legal fees reached its goal within hours, then doubled, then tripled. People gathered at Horizon ticket counters with their Quanaja flying while black signs. The airline was forced to close its social media comment sections due to overwhelming negative feedback. Howard Bennett made one final television appearance, looking haggarded and defensive. When pressed about the mounting evidence of discrimination, he snapped at the interviewer. This is a witch hunt based on one incident that's been blown completely out of proportion. The outburst was immediately clipped and shared widely, becoming yet another PR disaster for the already struggling airline. Behind closed doors, board members began discussing succession plans. As public pressure mounted, a flight attendant union representative contacted Jasmine. Many of our members want to come forward about the directives they've received from management regarding certain passengers. They need protection. The story had grown beyond one man's experience into a full-blown reckoning with systemic discrimination, and Malik, thrust into the center of a national conversation, stood firm, despite the personal cost, because he recognized that his algorithm had already identified a clear pattern, one that could no longer be ignored. Horizon Airlines' gleaming headquarters, once a symbol of corporate success, now resembled a fortress under siege. Security guards checked IDs at every entrance. PR representatives hurried through the lobby, avoiding eye contact with waiting journalists, and employees spoke in hushed tones, fearful of being overheard inside the executive suite. Chaos reigned. Damage control isn't working. Stephanie from PR reported to the crisis team gathered in the mahogany panel boardroom. The anonymous leak to Washington Post just made everything 10 times worse. The leak she referred to was devastating. Terrence had received a cache of internal emails from a source inside Horizon, evidence of systematic racial profiling in the airline security protocols. The documents showed that passengers with certain ethnic-sounding names, or those traveling from predominantly Black or Middle Eastern countries, were flagged for additional screening at rates wildly disproportionate to other travelers. Raymond Morris, head of security, had been caught on security cameras shredding documents hours after the story broke. When confronted by internal investigators, he claimed he was following standard document retention policies, an explanation that convinced no one. Flight attendant Amber Taylor, feeling the mounting pressure, had contacted Jasmine directly. "I was following specific instructions," she admitted in a sworn statement. "We were told to report any passengers who seemed out of place in first class. There was an unspoken understanding of what that meant." The fallout was swift. 7 executives, including Raymond, were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Howard Bennett insisted he had been unaware of discriminatory practices, though emails suggested otherwise. What executives hadn't anticipated was the internal revolt brewing among their own employees. Flight attendant Natasha Williams created a private group where workers began sharing stories of the toxic corporate culture they'd endured. "I reported discriminatory treatment of passengers 3 times, wrote one flight attendant. "Each time management told me to focus on security concerns instead of political correctness." A baggage handler described being reprimanded for questioning why certain passengers' luggage was consistently selected for additional screening. A gate agent revealed how the computer system flagged certain names for extra verification, almost always passengers of color. The Western States Pilots Association, representing most of Horizon's pilots, released a statement. "Our members are committed to passenger safety. We do not support discriminatory practices that target passengers based on race or ethnicity. We call for a thorough, independent investigation." Call center employees began sharing years of passenger complaints that had been systematically buried. Technical staff leaked booking data showing how the random security check algorithm disproportionately targeted minorities. The internal collapse accelerated when Lauren Patterson, Senior Vice President of Customer Experience, resigned in a scathing public letter. "I can no longer represent a company that betrays both its stated values and basic human decency. The practices I've witnessed and unsuccessfully tried to change over the past 18 months violate not just company policy, but federal law." Lawrence's detailed account of discrimination embedded in company policy sent shockwaves through the industry. She described meetings where executives openly discussed ways to discourage certain demographics, from booking premium cabins and training sessions where staff were taught to watch for passengers who don't match the customer profile. Howard attempted damage control in an emergency all-staff video call. These allegations come from a small number of disgruntled employees and rogue actors within our security team. They do not reflect Horizon's values or official policies. His words rang hollow as hundreds of employees simultaneously shared the Horizon truth with their own experiences. The final blow to Howard's credibility came when board member Alvin Davis publicly broke ranks during a CNBC interview. As a board member, I've questioned these practices for years and been systematically sidelined. The culture comes from the top. Howard Bennett has created an environment where this discrimination was not just tolerated, but encouraged. The statement sent Horizon stock into free fall. Major institutional investors began demanding leadership changes as a condition for continued support. Meanwhile, Jasmine had successfully filed for class action status, with 47 plaintiffs now part of the lawsuit against Horizon. The plaintiffs represented a cross-section of society: doctors, teachers, business owners, students united by their experiences of discrimination at the hands of the airline. The operational impact on Horizon became increasingly severe. Flight attendants called in sick in unprecedented numbers. Pilots began strictly adhering to every regulation and procedure, causing widespread delays. Customer service agents, tired of apologizing for their employer, quit in droves. Cancellations mounted as Horizon struggled to staff flights. Passengers reported arriving at airports to find gates empty, and flights disappeared from the system without notice. The company that had prided itself on operational efficiency was crumbling from within. Through it all, Malik Johnson's algorithm, the very technology Horizon had feared, was being discussed in industry publications as a potential solution to detect and prevent discriminatory practices in transportation. The irony wasn't lost on anyone following the story. As evening fell on the 7th day of the crisis, Howard Bennett sat alone in his corner office, watching the news coverage of his company's implosion. His phone buzzed with a text from the board chairman. Emergency meeting tomorrow, 7:00 a.m. Topic: leadership transition. The empire was collapsing, and it had started with one man who refused to be silenced. Franklin Reynolds, Horizon Airlines' largest individual shareholder, surveyed the chaotic board meeting from the head of the table. At 72, with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, he rarely attended such meetings in person. Today was different. This stops now, Franklin declared, cutting through the crosstalk. Howard, your leadership has become a liability. The board is invoking Article 7 of the corporate charter to remove you, effective immediately. Howard Bennett's face flushed crimson. You can't do this. I built this airline, and now you've nearly destroyed it. Alvin Davis countered, sliding a tablet displaying the latest stock price across the table. We've lost 62% of our market value in 9 days. Security waited discreetly outside the boardroom to escort Howard from the building. The power shift was swift and merciless. The same ruthless efficiency that had characterized Howard's own rise to power now orchestrated his fall. While the boardroom drama unfolded, Raymond Morris was attempting to board a private flight to the Cayman Islands. TSA agents acting on an FBI alert intercepted him at the security checkpoint. Agent Curtis Fletcher personally took Raymond into custody, confiscating 3 smartphones and a laptop. The contents of these devices are quite illuminating, Curtis told Malik and Jasmine during a secure meeting at the FBI field office. Raymond wasn't just targeting you. He was running a sophisticated passenger profiling operation with knowledge of several airline executives. The devices revealed a network that extended beyond Horizon. Raymond had communication with security chiefs at 4 other major airlines about sharing passenger risk profiles, a euphemism for racial profiling data that circumvented federal oversight. This wasn't just corporate discrimination, Curtis explained. This was a coordinated effort across multiple airlines to implement racial profiling under the guise of security protocols. The conspiracy reached higher than anyone had initially suspected. Raymond seized communications included exchanges with Department of Transportation officials who had helped shield airlines from discrimination investigations. When this information leaked to the press, the scandal expanded exponentially. Congressional hearings, initially focused solely on Horizon, broadened to examine industry-wide practices. Airline CEOs were subpoenaed. Regulatory agencies faced harsh scrutiny for their oversight failures. Malik's scheduled testimony before Congress became the most anticipated moment of the hearings. Death threats poured in, requiring enhanced security arrangements. Industry lobbyists worked frantically behind the scenes to discredit him before he could speak. The intimidation extended to Jasmine, who found her car vandalized outside her office with a warning scratched into the paint. Drop the case or else. The FBI, now fully invested in the expanding case, provided security for key witnesses. "They're scared," Jasmine told Malik as they prepared for the hearing. "And they should be. Your algorithm is being used to analyze historical airline data. Now the patterns are undeniable." Indeed, a team of data scientists had volunteered to apply Malik's discrimination detection algorithm to publicly available airline statistics. The results were damning. Black and Middle Eastern passengers were removed from flights at rates up to 14 times higher than white passengers across multiple airlines. The disparity couldn't be explained by any factor other than race. Howard Bennett, ousted but defiant, made one final media appearance on a conservative news program. "This witch hunt is destroying an American institution based on unfounded accusations of racism. The real victims are our shareholders and employees." The attempt at damage control backfired when employees themselves organized a press conference in response. Flight attendant Kayla Wilson, surrounded by 30 colleagues, spoke directly to the cameras. "We joined this company to help people travel safely, not to participate in discrimination. We stand with Malik Johnson and all passengers who have been profiled." Global repercussions mounted as international aviation authorities opened investigations into Horizon's practices in their jurisdictions. Japan's Civil Aviation Bureau suspended Horizon's landing rights pending review. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency announced comprehensive audits of the airline's operations. These regulatory actions triggered a domino effect. Partner airlines already distancing themselves from Horizon began formally severing ties. Alliance memberships were suspended. Codeshare agreements dissolved overnight. Financial institutions reassessed their positions. Goldman Stanley issued a strong sell recommendation. Credit rating agencies downgraded Horizon's debt to junk status. Investment funds with social responsibility mandates divested completely. Inside Horizon headquarters, acting CEO Alvin Davis assembled what remained of the executive team. "We have one path forward," he told them gravely. "Total transparency, full cooperation with investigators, and a complete overhaul of our policies." Not everyone agreed. Old guard executives argued for fighting the allegations and protecting the company's reputation at all costs. The internal struggle mirrored the larger societal debate about accountability versus preservation of established institutions. As the pressure intensified, Malik received an unexpected call from the tech company that had initially hesitated to work with him after the incident. "We've been following everything," said the CEO, Deborah Kleen. "Your algorithm is exactly what this industry needs. We want to implement it across our entire platform, not just for airlines, but for all transportation systems. This could transform accountability in the sector." The technology that Horizon had feared, the very reason they had targeted Malik, was now poised to become the industry standard for anti-discrimination compliance. That evening, as Malik prepared his congressional testimony in his hotel room, he reflected on the unlikely path that had led here. A single incident of discrimination, the kind that happened countless times daily across the country, had escalated into an industry-wide reckoning simply because he had refused to be silenced. His phone buzzed with news alerts. Raymond Morris and 2 other former Horizon executives were facing federal charges for conspiracy and obstruction of justice. The company's stock had been halted after falling below minimum threshold requirements. And most significantly, a Department of Justice investigation into aviation industry discrimination practices had been formally announced. What had begun as one man's humiliation was ending as a watershed moment in the fight against systemic racism. The cost had been enormous, both personally and for innocent Horizon employees caught in the fallout. But the opportunity for meaningful change was finally within reach. The international terminal at JFK Airport erupted in chaos as hundreds of Horizon Airlines passengers discovered their flights had vanished from departure boards. Customer service counters were overwhelmed with travelers demanding explanations, rebookings, and refunds. Similar scenes played out simultaneously at airports worldwide. In London, Paris, Tokyo, Sydney, and dozens of other cities. Horizon's operations ground to a halt as aviation authorities suspended the airline's landing rights pending safety and discrimination investigations. Horizon's acting CEO, Alvin Davis, addressed ashen-faced executives in the Emergency Command Center, established on the headquarters' 14th floor. Screens displayed the growing global disruption as red alerts multiplied across their route map. The Italian Civil Aviation Authority just suspended our operating certificate, reported the VP of International Operations. That's 17 countries now. We've lost access to 73% of our international destinations. Domestic operations, Alvin asked. Barely functioning. We're experiencing mass crew sick-outs. The pilots' union says they're reviewing safety protocols, which is effectively a work slowdown. Alvin loosened his tie, the weight of the crisis evident in the dark circles under his eyes. What's our passenger situation? The numbers were staggering. Over 287,000 travelers stranded globally. Competitor airlines couldn't absorb even a fraction of displaced passengers. Hotels near major airports were filled to capacity. The emergency board meeting that followed was somber. The company's chief financial officer presented the brutal reality. We're burning through $50 million daily in crisis costs. At this rate, we have approximately 16 days before we're forced to consider Chapter 11. Franklin Reynolds, the major shareholder who had orchestrated Howard's removal, spoke with uncharacteristic emotion. This company has been part of American aviation for 3 decades. I refuse to let it end this way. The vote was unanimous. Horizon Airlines would voluntarily suspend its entire network operations to reset the company and address the discrimination issues comprehensively. All flights worldwide would be grounded for an initial period of 30 days. The unprecedented decision sent shockwaves through the aviation industry. No major carrier had ever voluntarily suspended its entire operation outside of a safety emergency or labor strike. Alvin Davis, now fully installed as interim CEO, made the announcement personally. Effective midnight tonight, Horizon Airlines is temporarily suspending all flight operations to undertake a fundamental review of our policies, practices, and culture. This difficult decision reflects our commitment to emerging from this crisis as a company that truly values every customer equally. The financial markets responded immediately. Trading in Horizon stock was halted after triggering circuit breakers. Industry analysts debated whether the airline could survive such a drastic measure. Meanwhile, Malik Johnson was emerging as the unexpected catalyst for industry-wide change. His congressional testimony, delivered with quiet dignity, laid out not just his personal experience, but the algorithmic evidence of systematic discrimination. The data doesn't lie, Malik explained to the transfixed committee members. When applied to passenger removal statistics across multiple airlines, my algorithm detected patterns of racial disparity that exceed random chance by factors of hundreds to one. This isn't accidental, it's systemic. The testimony was carried live on every major network. Aviation industry executives watched with growing alarm as Malik methodically dismantled the pretense that these were isolated incidents. Behind the scenes, the Department of Justice investigation expanded daily. Agent Curtis Fletcher led a team of federal investigators executing search warrants at Horizon's data centers, securing evidence before it could be altered or destroyed. What they uncovered was more disturbing than anticipated: an internal security classification system that assigned risk scores partly based on passengers' names, appearances, and travel origins. The system had been implemented under Raymond Morris, but had received explicit approval from Howard Bennett and other senior executives. Criminal charges expanded beyond Raymond to include Howard and 3 other former executives for conspiracy against civil rights, lying to federal investigators, and obstruction of justice. For Horizon's 63,000 employees, the crisis created profound uncertainty. Flight crews and ground staff faced not just temporary furloughs, but questions about the company's survival. Many began updating resumes and contacting other airlines. Recognizing the human cost, Alvin reached out directly to Malik, a conversation neither man had anticipated having. "Mr. Johnson, this is Alvin Davis." "I recognize your voice," Malik replied cautiously. "I'm calling because thousands of innocent employees are suffering from actions they had no part in. People with families, mortgages, children in college." Alvin's voice carried genuine concern. "I'm not asking you to drop your case. I'm asking if you consider being part of the solution. What are you proposing?" "Your algorithm, the very technology our former leadership feared, could help us rebuild properly. Would you consider consulting with us to implement systems that ensure this never happens again?" The request gave Malik pause. Working with the very company that had discriminated against him wasn't what he'd expected. Yet the opportunity to create real change from within was compelling. "I'll need to think about it," he told Alvin, "and discuss it with my attorney." As Malik contemplated this unexpected turn, his original algorithm was being adopted far beyond the aviation sector. Government agencies, health care systems, and financial institutions began implementing versions of his bias detection software to examine their own practices. The technology that had made him a target was now transforming into a powerful tool for institutional accountability. His presentation, the one Horizon had tried to prevent, had led to a partnership with Innovate Tech that was expanding rapidly beyond their initial contract. Meanwhile, the aviation industry faced its own reckoning. Competing airlines, seeing Horizon's implosion, rushed to audit their own practices. Training programs on implicit bias were hastily implemented. Diversity officers were appointed to executive teams. Policy changes were announced with great fanfare, but industry insiders recognized these as largely cosmetic changes. Real transformation would require more than press releases and training videos. As the Department of Justice investigation expanded to include 3 other major carriers, the broader implications became clear. What had begun as one black man's removal from a flight had evolved into a comprehensive examination of discrimination throughout American aviation. For Malik, the personal and professional price had been substantial. The threats continued. The stress had affected his health. His career trajectory had been irrevocably altered. Yet as he watched the news coverage of Horizon's grounded fleet aircraft parked in neat rows at airports nationwide, he recognized that his refusal to be silenced had created an opportunity for change that might never have existed otherwise. The system that had humiliated him was being dismantled piece by discriminatory piece, and he now faced an unexpected choice: walk away with his vindication or help rebuild something better from the ashes. 6 months later, Malik Johnson stood in the gleaming lobby of the rebranded Horizon headquarters, now emblazoned with the new corporate identity, Inclusive Airways. The security guard smiled warmly as he checked Malik's consultant badge. The symbolism wasn't lost on him entering as an honored advisor through the same doors that had once housed the executives who had orchestrated his removal. The transformation of the airline had been neither quick nor easy. After the network-wide grounding, Horizon had indeed filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, emerging 3 months later with a new name, new leadership, and a fundamentally different approach to its operations. Alvin Davis, installed as permanent CEO, had made the bold decision to rebuild the company around principles of equity and inclusion. The rebranding wasn't mere window dressing, it represented a complete corporate restructuring with Malik's algorithm at its center. "The quarterly data is encouraging," Alvin said, welcoming Malik into the boardroom, where airline executives now sat alongside diversity experts and civil rights advocates. "Passenger removal rates show no statistically significant variations across demographic groups." Malik nodded, examining the data dashboard he had helped design. "The system is working as intended. It flags potential bias in real time before it affects passengers." The Justice Department settlement had mandated sweeping changes across the aviation industry. Airlines now had to report detailed demographic data on security incidents, removal decisions, and passenger complaints. Federal monitors ensured compliance. Raymond Morris and Howard Bennett had both pleaded guilty to federal charges of conspiracy against civil rights and obstruction of justice. Their sentencing was scheduled for the following month, with prosecutors recommending substantial prison time. Flight attendant Amber Taylor, who had initially defended her actions, had undergone a remarkable transformation of her own. After a period of reflection and education, she had publicly apologized to Malik and now worked on the airline's diversity training team, sharing her experience as a cautionary tale about following discriminatory directives without question. "I was part of a system I didn't fully understand," she had told Malik during their first difficult conversation. "That doesn't excuse my actions, but I'm committed to being part of the solution now." Jasmine Taylor had parlayed the landmark case into a new role, heading a specialized aviation civil rights compliance division at a major law firm. Her team advised airlines nationwide on avoiding discriminatory practices. "We're seeing proactive changes across the industry," she told Malik over lunch. "Companies that once fought against oversight are now requesting audits before problems arise." "Your case changed everything." The airline industry's transformation extended beyond a single company. The entire passenger experience was evolving. Security protocols were being redesigned to maintain safety while eliminating bias. Crew training emphasized cultural sensitivity alongside safety procedures. Independent auditors regularly tested systems for discriminatory patterns. For Malik personally, the journey had been both vindicating and expansive. Jefferson Tech had created a specialized division around his anti-discrimination algorithm, with applications expanding into healthcare, financial services, and government operations. The technology that Horizon had feared was now helping institutions identify and eliminate bias in their systems. Former victims of discrimination had been hired as consultants throughout the airline, their lived experiences informing policy changes. Malik had insisted on this approach, ensuring that transformation wasn't merely technical, but deeply human. The broader impact extended beyond airlines to transportation standards. Generally, rideshare companies, train operators, and cruise lines had all implemented similar accountability measures, recognizing that the public now expected transportation providers to demonstrate commitment to equitable treatment. After concluding his consultation meeting, Malik took a moment alone in the observation deck overlooking the airport operations. Aircraft bearing the new inclusive airways, livery taxied alongside planes from other carriers. The industry that had once singled him out now used his story as a case study in corporate ethics training. Later that afternoon, Malik prepared to board a flight home. At the gate, he was surprised to see a familiar face, Wesley Thompson, the security officer who had removed him from Flight 2187 a year earlier. "Captain Thompson now," Wesley said, extending his hand tentatively. "After everything happened, after I realized how I'd been used, I went back to flight school, wanted to be part of the solution." Malik hesitated only briefly before shaking the offered hand. The journey from confrontation to reconciliation hadn't been straightforward, but it represented the possibility of genuine change. Individuals acknowledging harm and working toward a better system. Boarding the aircraft, Malik was greeted warmly by the crew. As he settled into his seat, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Good afternoon, passengers. This is Captain Thompson speaking. Welcome aboard Inclusive Airways, Flight 2187. Before we take off, I want to personally welcome Dr. Malik Johnson, whose courage changed our industry for the better." Surprised by the announcement, Malik found himself receiving nods of recognition and even applause from fellow passengers who knew his story. As the aircraft lifted into the clear blue sky, Malik reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had transformed a moment of injustice into a movement for change. One incident, properly exposed and contextualized, had created ripples that continued to expand. The algorithm he developed now protected thousands of travelers daily from the discrimination he had faced. The company that had tried to silence him now championed his message. And most importantly, the next generation of Black passengers might board their flights without carrying the weight of anticipated discrimination. It wasn't perfect, no transformation ever is, but it was substantial progress, and it had started because one man had refused to be silenced when forcibly removed from a plane without explanation. Malik's story teaches us that individual courage can spark systemic change. When faced with injustice, his refusal to be silenced, even when offered millions, revealed how deeply discrimination had been embedded within corporate structures. His story demonstrates that accountability often requires sacrifice. As Malik risked his career, safety, and reputation to stand for something greater than himself, the transformation of an entire industry came not from top-owned regulations, but from one person who recognized his unique position to effect change. Malik's technical skills allowed him to prove what many experienced but couldn't quantify: systematic discrimination disguised as security protocols. This highlights how modern tools can expose long-standing injustices when placed in the right hands. Perhaps most importantly, this story reminds us that discrimination thrives in silence. The airline strategy depended on settlements with NDAs, keeping each victim isolated and preventing pattern recognition. Only when these experiences were connected could the true scope of the problem emerge. Sometimes the most powerful act of resistance is simply saying no to silence and standing firm in your truth. What would you do if you faced discrimination like Malik? Would you have the courage to stand up against a powerful corporation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Has racism or discrimination affected your travel experiences? I'd love to hear your stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to hear more stories of ordinary people creating extraordinary change. Share this video with someone who needs to understand the impact of everyday discrimination. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of the most remarkable stories of corporate accountability in recent history. Until next time, remember that your voice matters.